Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Whitemarsh Township Board of Supervisors meeting for March 9th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll go to JC for some announcements.
So we have some roadwork update. Ridge Pike is restricted to a single lane from Pine Ridge Drive through Northwestern Avenue in the eastbound direction, and from Northwestern Avenue to Park Avenue in the westbound direction, beginning today for 3 to 3.5 months for road work as part of Montgomery County's Ridge Pike Improvement Project. As many of you know, our Township Day is coming up. That's going to take place on April 22nd. It's a wonderful opportunity to interact with the community. There are a variety of ways to participate. You can get in touch with the Parks and Rec Department or email Tom Blumstrom. And it's a good way to get word out about your business, so think about becoming a sponsor. And finally, it's Teeny Shamrocks Day on March 14th. The deadline to register is tomorrow, March 10th, so keep that in mind.
All right, thank you, JC. Just a matter of bookkeeping. Our Supervisor Patrice Turenne is not with us tonight, so it'll just be the four of us. So do I have a motion to open the public hearing for conditional use number 01-23, 454 Germantown Associates LLC / 454 Germantown Pike for a multifamily conversion from a commercial use to 5 apartment dwelling units in the VC1 Village Commercial District?
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to turn the meeting over to all in favor.
Just call a vote.
Call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sean.
Yes, thank you very much. Tonight we have a conditional use hearing for 454 Germantown Pike Associates for apartment conversion in the VC1 Village Commercial District, Subdistrict 1. What I'm going to do is first go ahead and mark some exhibits. T1 will be an application and floor plans, site plan and photographs. T2 will be a proof of publication in our newspaper general circulation, the Times Herald, February 22nd and March 1st. T3 will be the property deed. T4 will be the zoning hearing board decision related to this case, dated January 4th, 2023, zoning hearing board number 2022-54. T5 will be the applicant meeting notification letter, dated January 19th, 2023. T6 will be the resident meeting notification letter, dated January 23rd, 2023. T7 will be the posting of notice, dated March 1st, 2023. T8 will be the zoning ordinance compliance review, dated January 20th, 2023. T9 will be the fire marshal review, dated January 18th, 2023. T10 will be the Whitemarsh Planning Commission recommendation, the draft minutes of the meeting, February 14th, 2023, and a unanimous motion regarding approval of application. The conditional use process is akin to a special exception to the zoning hearing board. The Board of Supervisors is sitting in a quasi-judicial role. Thus, I'm going to ask if there's any parties out there that are asking for party status. Meaning, if you request and receive party status, you have the ability to cross-examine witnesses, call witnesses yourself, actively participate in the in this hearing. Doesn't mean that if you don't receive party status or don't request it, that you won't be able to comment. There'll be an opportunity for comment at the end of this hearing after the Board of Supervisors asks questions and you can state what you feel about this. The Board of Supervisors may do a couple things. They may close this hearing and take action after hearing proper evidence tonight. They may continue this hearing to a date certain on the record in the future if they so choose. or they may deny the application. But just wanted everyone understood what the ground rules were going here. And before I begin, and I see we have an attorney for the applicant here, but I want to turn it over to Mr. Guttenplan to follow up on my brief explanation.
Thank you. This is a public hearing for conditional use under section 116-290B5. That's within the Village Commercial District. This is a property in the VC1 district, and that section allows for conversions of more than 4 dwelling units. The proposal for this property at 454 Germantown Pike, which you may know as Mr. McCarthy's building. Mr. McCarthy is the applicant. He's here in the audience tonight. That proposal is to convert that building to 5 dwelling units. No changes to the exterior of the building or to the site, just to the interior of the building, as you will hear. And this needed one variance from the zoning hearing board for density to allow the 5 dwelling units, and that was the one exhibit that you heard from Mr. Kilkenny, the zoning hearing board decision in case number 22-54, that gave the applicant a variance from section 116-290D, which establishes a certain density in the VC1 district for townhouses or apartments, and because of the small size of this property, the 5 units exceeded that density, and the zoning hearing board granted the variance. So they were free to move forward with the conditional use. As you heard also, they were at the Planning Commission on February 14th. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the application at that meeting. With that, I will turn it over to their attorney.
And just for the record, is anybody requesting party status in this? No, I'm sorry, forgot to actually ask that. Okay, seeing none, I'll turn it over to the applicant's attorney.
Thank you very much. Alexander Barth of Cohen Seglius on behalf of the applicant, 454 Germantown Associates LLC. Just for everybody, I do have our version of exhibits. These are probably in each of your agenda packages.
Okay. So we'll just mark these as A1 applicants 1, just so we have these for the record, in case there was anything that was different.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I will try to be brief in my comments because most of my presentation has just been given by both the township manager and Charlie, the planner. This is we are here seeking a conditional use application for the conversion of this property from what is an existing commercial building. Let's go through here. An existing commercial building, which was obviously some point in time historically a residence, converted into a commercial building. Now we're seeking to convert it back into a multifamily dwelling. This would be an apartment building with 4 2-bedroom units, 1 1-bedroom unit on 2 floors with no exterior alterations to the existing structure. No change in ingress and egress from the parking lot, no landscaping alterations. The structure and the site will, from the exterior, remain the same. The interior will be the purposes of the modification. Obviously, it will be a substantial renovation to handle it. We are looking at, just go through, sorry here. The site plan, so as was stated before, we did go before the zoning board on this. There was a density issue based upon the zoning ordinance as to the maximum number of units with density and acreage. We exceeded that, seeking 5 units, and the zoning board granted a variance to permit that. And we're here for the second portion of the ordinance, which, as Charlie stated, would be 290B5, to allow 5 dwelling units, which exceeds the 4 permitted in the VC1 district, without a conditional use. So we are in the VC1 district. Exhibit A states that, shows the location of the site, kind of in more detail, looking at the first 2 pages of that. And then it proceeds to show what would be this, which is the existing site plan. The existing site plan shows, let's see if this pointer works, kind of, the existing structure here on Germantown Pike, Here's the Pike, here's the existing structure. There is parking back here. There is an ancillary structure back here, which is a freestanding medical office that is not part of this application. That building, that structure will remain the same for its use. And then there are additional parking spaces in the rear here. There are also, as you'll see from an aerial view and from further exhibits, there is additional parking. This is an assemblage of parking easements that allow for 23 parking spaces for this building. So one of the items for the conditional use application is parking. Parking is a criteria that is required, and as I was just mentioning, we are here at 454 Germantown Pike, this main structure here, and this assemblage of 3 lots parking, 3 separate, what used to be one single lot was now divided into 3, shares with a group parking easement this entire lot. Pursuant to that easement, 454 Germantown Pike has the access and right to use of 23 parking spaces. The requirement in this application would be for 7.5 parking spaces, 1.5 space per dwelling unit. We fall within that with a good margin for excess. The existing use of this building, when it was last used as a commercial space, was for Mr. McCarthy's accounting firm. So you had anywhere between 17 and 25 people coming and going per day into the facility, whether they be employees or clients. The conversion of that to a residential structure with 5 units will greatly reduce the amount of ingress and egress onto the Pike and for actually the actual parking needs of the facility. So there will be excess parking that he'll be able to utilize or that will go unused at times. So we have the parking one, we satisfy that criteria for both, obviously, the surrounding neighborhood and for the township and for the actual usage. The approval from the fire department, that review was done by the fire marshal. We did an examination of the existing structure. That is part of your packet as well. That examination, that would be Exhibit H, approved the application on behalf of the fire marshal, understanding that when building permits would be applied for the structure, given the change from commercial to residential, it would require sprinklering. It would require fire suppression installation. The applicant understands and is aware of that and is willing to satisfy that requirement at that time, of course. Again, we exceeded the zoning requirement on the density per acre, and the zoning variance was provided, was secured by the zoning board for the township in January. That is also part of your package. That is Exhibit F. In there would be the approval for this application based upon the existing zoning ordinance, allowing for the density. And then lastly, under the conditional use portion of the ordinance, the applicant, based upon the fact that there are no exterior modifications or alterations to the structure, both driveway, sidewalks, parking, or the exterior of the building, the conditional use is, I guess you would say, the intended use meets the definitions of or permitted under the conditional use provision. The use is compatible with this neighborhood. When we look up and down the Pike.
So, sir, are you, just real quick, are you going to be calling any witnesses or no? So why don't we just swear you in?
All right.
Okay.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you have given and that you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Okay, and we'll just incorporate everything you said previously, a sworn testimony, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
When you look up and down the Pike, most of these properties, some of which are used exclusively for residential usage, many of them are used as mixed use. 450, I believe, has one small 700 square foot commercial unit. The remainder of the building is all residential. 452 has residential. 454, I do not, right now is commercial. 456 has some residential. 456 is all commercial. So there is a interspersing of residential on this area of the Pike, and the purpose there being that the use fits and it is compatible with the neighborhood. There'll be yet less people using the property. Again, less ingress and egress of vehicles onto the Pike, less foot traffic on the property. The residential use is expressly permitted, obviously with a conditional use for that 5th unit, but the intended use for residential is permitted in the district itself. There'll be no harmful effects to neighboring properties or the adjacent neighborhood. Again, the site will remain identical. It's not going to change. The historic nature of the home and the structure will remain. There's going to be no alterations, no lifting of the roof, no removal of walls from the exterior. The ingress and egress points will be from where there are existing doors on the sides and in the front, so nothing will adjust there. It's in compliance with the comprehensive plan. The intended comprehensive plan calls for mixed use in this township. This is not going to modify or adjust that, allowing for some medium density in this location. And it's a diversification of the housing stock in the area or the actual usage in the area. It does not eliminate any open space. It won't add to any increase of objectionable noise or usages. There's no commercial or retail aspect to the structure. There'll be no smoke, no noise, no unintended retail usages in there. Less people on the property on a daily basis will be less burden on the land itself, and there'll be no undue burden on the township for services. It's not going to increase any use or utilization of services. Again, you're going to have less people using the property on a daily basis based on the number of residents that are going to fit in 4 two-bedroom units and 1 one-bedroom unit. The shared driveway exists as it exists today. You will see in the packet, in Exhibit G, is the recorded parking easement that allows for and confirms the use of the 23 spaces. It's not going away. There will be no use of street parking. That is deeded to this property in perpetuity. The existing trees that surround the property to protect the neighbors will remain. There's going to be no adjustment of the landscaping in the rear, the landscaping along the side, or the front. Everything, and actually the landscaping in this partition that runs down between 456 and 454 will remain there. There'll be no adjustment to that. And again, the zoning variance was previously granted. So I am here with Martin McCarthy, who is the principal of the applicant. If anybody has any questions for the applicant, for myself, we're happy to answer them with regard to the request of a conditional use to allow for 5 dwelling units in this property.
Thank you for your synopsis. I'm assuming that you spoke to the neighbors over there, and the businesses and everything.
Yes.
So if Mr. McCarthy's going to,
Yeah.
why don't we swear him in? Yeah.
Sure.
You can just raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you will give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can I ask Mr. McCarthy one question? Marty, did you hear my testimony that I gave before the board?
Yes.
Was what I stated before the board truthful?
Yes.
Would you adopt my testimony as your own?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Yeah. Any other questions for Mr. McCarthy?
Quick question, the building at the rear of the parking lot is shown as a medical office building,
It's an how do you say, esthetician?
esthetician?
Yeah.
And the 5 spaces that are assigned to that building are the ones in the back?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the ones immediately to, this works a little weird, it's a different angle right here.
Yep.
Yes.
Any other board questions?
No, great summary.
Yeah.
Just a quick question about the actual apartments, and I'm not sure if you know this or not yet. Are they going to allow pets in the apartments? Do you know?
I have not decided. Generally, I do, up to a certain limit.
Okay.
That's terrible because I have a 150-pound Bernese Mountain Dog, and I wouldn't let him live in the
Oh, my
apartment.
goodness. Yeah, I was just thinking about noise
Multiple,
and/or
yes.
where you would take them to,
Yeah.
relieve themselves,
I
et
know
cetera, et
the
cetera.
neighbors, 450 allows pets. They take them to that back patch of grass on there, and they're always, but they're generally little dogs. Unfortunately, little dogs are yappier than the big dogs.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I have a puggle too. That thing, it's the odd couple.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Any public comment, question? Are hearing none, can I get a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The meeting is closed.
Hearing, just for the record, we don't want to close the meeting yet.
I'm sorry, Sean.
We got
Thank you
it.
for your catching my verb.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, we could be out.
We're gonna- Ready to vote on this? Do I have a motion to approve conditional use number 01-23454 Germantown Associates, LLC/454 Germantown Pike, for a multifamily conversion from a commercial use to 5 apartment dwelling units in the VC1 Village Commercial District?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks for your time.
Does anybody want me to collect those exhibits? Do you want me to recycle
Oh,
them?
that'd be great.
You guys don't have to. I'll pay a lot of money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Take care, Marty.
All right. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance amendment to Chapter 105 subdivision and land development by updating certain definitions to provide consistency with recent updates to Chapter 55 tree protection standards?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we'll turn it over to Charlie.
I'll go ahead and mark some. I'll go ahead and mark some exhibits first, just for the record. Again, this is a different kind of public hearing. The last hearing we heard was just a conditional use hearing. This is a public hearing pursuant to the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code that you have to do for zoning or subdivision land development ordinance amendment. So there will not be an opportunity for party status. There's just going to be, I'm going to go ahead and mark some exhibits. Mr. Guttenplan is going to give an explanation as to these changes. The board will have an opportunity for some questions related to that. There'll be an opportunity for public comment, and then the board can continue this hearing if they so choose, or close the hearing and take action on a potential ordinance change. T1 will be a proof of publication in the Times Herald, dated February 22nd and March 1st, 2023. T2 will be the draft ordinance. T3 will be the transmittal of the draft ordinance in Montgomery County Law Library, dated February 16th, 2023. T4 will be the attestation of the ordinance accompanying transmittal to the Law Library, dated February 16th, 2023. T5 will be the Montgomery County Planning Commission review, dated January 30th, 2023. T6 will be the Whitemarsh Township Planning Commission recommendation, draft minutes of meeting, February 14th, 2023. Motion recommending the Board of Supervisors approval of the ordinance with an editorial correction as advertised. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Guttenplan.
Thank you. As the board is aware, you adopted a new Chapter 55 in December of 2022. Similar to when Chapter 55 was substantially updated back in 2014, there were some amendments necessary to the subdivision land development ordinance so that we're consistent between the two ordinances and we're not creating any legal conflicts or inconsistencies. And in this case, the only things that need to be updated that we have determined are 7 definitions that are in the subdivision land development ordinance that have been slightly redefined in Chapter 55, and we want to make sure that they mesh so that there isn't a legal issue in the future. This has been authorized by the board at your February 9th, 2023 meeting, and as you heard in one of the exhibits, the Planning Commission reviewed this at their meeting on February 14th, 2023, and recommended approval of the ordinance as you have it in your packets and as it has been advertised. Most of the terms have had minor edits, a couple a little bit more substantial. I just want to indicate what all the terms are that we are redefining. There are, as I mentioned, 7 of them. Canopy tree is one, and that has been updated because the Chapter 55 has redefined what a canopy tree is in terms of its maximum height. second definition is hazard tree, which just has a very minor edit in the definition. The most important one, I think, is heritage tree, the third one. As part of Chapter 55, the heritage tree was redefined. It is now a tree that is at least 36 inches in diameter and at diameter breast height, or 75 years old. Previously, it had been 40 inches, and that's what is currently in the subdivision land development ordinance. So this is an effort to make sure they're consistent and that we are regulating heritage trees as the Shade Tree Commission intends them to be regulated. The next definition is preserved tree, which again was just some minor edits. Root protection zone had slightly more change made to it because in Chapter 55, they no longer talk about certain actions or characteristics of the tree protection zone. They're handled in the regulations themselves, not in the definition. So we had to amend the definition to take some of those regulations out and just make sure that we had a reference to Chapter 55. And that because that's where that particular issue is regulated. The term tree is just some minor edit. Again, the height of a tree as it's been defined in Chapter 55 has been increased to 15 feet, and currently the ordinance in subdivision land development says 8 feet. So again, to be consistent, we did that. And the final definition change is tree survey plan, and that is pretty much editorial in nature as well. And we are now referencing, again, the appropriate chapter and verse in Chapter 55 where tree survey plans are regulated and described. And that is the last definition. That's really the sum and substance of it. The County Planning Commission had no comment, recommended approval, as did our Planning Commission.
Thanks, Charlie. A lot of work went into that. It's amazing. Any board comment? Any public comment? Do I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I guess we can vote on the ordinance. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 1023, amending Chapter 105 subdivision and land development by updating certain definitions to provide consistency with recent updates to Chapter 55 tree protection standards?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Ms. Toll,
Yes.
Ms. Nestor,
Yes.
Mr. Manuel,
Yes.
Chair McCusker.
Yes. Ordinance carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from February 9th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we're going to go a little bit out of order. I see Jerome and Melissa Robinson are out there, and I'm sure you find this meeting riveting. We're going to help you.
Listening to how a tree measured it.
We're going to let you come up and talk in a second. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of the following individuals to boards and commissions? Gregory Nestor, Zoning Hearing Board, alternate term ending December 31st, 2024. And Jerome Robinson, Parks and Recreation Board, term ending December 31st, 2026.
So moved.
I respectfully request that I will be abstaining from the vote on Greg Nestor.
I will second the motion.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations. Jerome, do you want to come up and introduce yourself? Maybe Melissa wants to come and, no? Okay.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Jerome Robinson. I'm at 209 Germantown Pike. I've been here about 2 years, and I'm just, very honored and thankful for the opportunity to serve my community, this wonderful community, and share its huge, rich historical background. So it's going to be fun. I'm really excited about the opportunity, and I thank you all again.
Thanks, Jerome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 1024, amending section 111-22.1, vehicles and traffic handicap parking only between signs, to repeal certain handicap parking zones?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair McCusker. This is a little bit of maintenance for our code. When we receive requests from residents that would like a handicap spot, it's usually for those that don't have off-street parking. That is reviewed by the police department. They then make a recommendation to the board. The board then adopts an ordinance that allows for handicap parking on a public road. Well, the traffic safety unit of the police department went out and examined our current code of locations. They found 4 locations that no longer require those handicap spots. Therefore, we are repealing those 4 locations, and that is what this ordinance does before you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any board comment?
No.
Any public comment? Mr. Miller, please call the roll.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Ms. Nestor?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Chair McCusker?
Yes, ordinance carries. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 1025, increasing the number of voting members of the Emergency Services Board from 13 to 15, and to designate the membership of the board to include the Director of Public Works and the alternate civilian member?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair McCusker. At the recommendation of the Emergency Services Board, they requested that the Emergency Services Board go from 13 to 15 voting members. By doing so, it would add a new member, that being the Director of Public Works, as well as granting the alternate member as a voting member to keep it an odd amount of number. Therefore, this ordinance before you moves it from 13 to 15, adding the position of Director of Public Works and the alternate as a voting member.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Sounds like we have a lot of people voting.
It is one of our largest boards.
Any board comment? Public comment? Hearing none, Mr. Miller, please call the roll.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Ms. Nestor?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Chair McCusker?
Yes. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2023-10, authorizing an extension of the 2018-2019 intergovernmental agreement with other Montgomery and Philadelphia County municipalities and wastewater treatment plant operators to complete a water quality improvement plan, WQIP, as an alternative to the EPA phosphorus total maximum daily load, TMDL, for the Wissahickon Creek watershed?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair McCusker. Good job going through all of those acronyms and actually reading them out. This is an important project that's being worked on by 13 neighboring communities, including the City of Philadelphia, various wastewater treatment facilities that are along the Wissahickon Creek. They received notification as part of the Clean Air Act through the EPA down to Pennsylvania DEP that we needed to improve the water of the Wissahickon Creek. That is the total phosphorus amount. And their amount that they required that these communities go down to was something that has been contested as being unattainable in terms of that number. Therefore, instead of doing nothing, the group banded together through this intergovernmental agreement and has worked through for an alternate TMDL that they are presenting to the EPA and DEP. They've been working with experts, consultants, legal counsel, been meeting monthly, and have provided EPA and DEP the results of our studies. There have been comments going back and forth in an effort for the municipalities to receive approval of the TMDL, which will then allow those municipalities to go and put some of these projects into action and create better water quality along the Wissahickon River. This simply allows us to continue in that intergovernmental relationship. It also adds in the resolution that it will expire 90 days after the final approval of the TMDL, so we do not have to keep coming back again and again, and that was something that was requested of all the municipalities that are part of this intergovernmental agreement. So we have been a good partner. We have been meeting monthly. We've been engaged in this from the very beginning and are continuing to work collectively to see it through and get final approval of the alternate TMDL.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any board comment? Any public comment? Mr. Miller, you can please call the roll.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Ms. Nestor?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Chair McCusker?
Yes. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the vacancy board member, Sara Erlbaum, for Vice Chair J.C. Toll for 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's about time. All right. Do I have a motion to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance authorizing the execution of a cable franchise agreement between the Township and Verizon PA LLC?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair McCusker. We have had an expired Verizon franchise agreement for several years now, as we have been trying to work with, through our law firm, Cohen Law Group. They are a group that has been working on behalf of Whitemarsh Township and several other Montgomery County consortium communities as they have negotiated agreements with Verizon, and it's really the national conglomerate of Verizon. The franchise agreement allows for cable operators to receive a franchise fee on their bill from their gross revenue for cable services delivered in the municipality. It allows them to run fiber in our right-of-way. We also have a similar agreement with Comcast as well. In this negotiation, one of the things that the township does get is a franchise fee grant. It's a one-time grant in the amount of $15,000. It was the same as before. That's something that they were trying to negotiate higher, but unfortunately for a lot of various reasons, that is where we are today. Also in this agreement, it allows for us to access a high-definition channel from Verizon. That was something that they negotiated on our behalf. Currently, it is in standard definition, and that will allow for all of us to be seen a little bit crisper on a high-definition channel there. Overall, it allows for various different kinds of enforcement, some audits, I think good protection. I think it's a good agreement. The standard language in the agreement is the same for all the municipalities. Where it gets down to, particular to Whitemarsh, it really has to do with the grant, the franchise fee grant, as well as we have a government channel. A lot of municipalities don't, and getting some of that high definition channel and some other items along with that, that's particular to Whitemarsh. So believe that we're finally there. It allows us 10 years that we're working on. That's the average. Unfortunately, Verizon would only go to a 5-year term. That was something else that kind of hung this whole entire negotiation up, but they really kind of stick to their ways as far as a corporate policy. The Cohen Group has been, that's what they do. They negotiate cable franchise agreements across the Commonwealth and have done a good job. They negotiated our Comcast agreement. They negotiated the first Verizon agreement when FiOS came about and negotiated that for the township, so they're well-versed in doing this for the township. And this is just to, we have to adopt this by ordinance. This is to advertise that ordinance, and then we'll have a public hearing at our April 12th meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Who would have thought that's so complicated? Cable. Any board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance amendment for Chapter 94, residential rental license requirements?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair McCusker. This is another kind of maintenance ordinance here. Several meetings ago, we brought on a third-party, Keystone Municipal Services, to help with our Building and Codes Department. One of the first things that we tasked them to do was take over our current rental inspection program in Whitemarsh and modernize it and make it such that runs a little more efficiently, in which we're able to inspect those rental units for safety and other items. When we looked at the ordinance, it was first adopted in 1983. There was amendments in 88 and 2009. There was a lot of inconsistencies, the first being that the finance director was actually the enforcement officer of the rental facilities. I checked with Kevin. He feels he has enough work in the finance department, and we're going to turn that over to the proper folks as the code enforcement officer. There was also, we do an inspection every 2 years. We want to make sure that we can automatically have those inspections every 2 years. That includes the Keystone providing a letter that goes out with what the inspection will be. It also tiers in the fees. We've looked at readjusting the fees for the rental inspection. That'll have to be a resolution to adopt with the fees. But we've tiered it. If you pay by a certain date, it's this much. If you pay by another certain date, it goes up. If you pay by a final date, it goes up again. So it behooves people to register early. It allows us to get those inspections in. And again, it's a 2-year cycle. It's not an annual cycle. They also had language in there that units over 100 were every 3 years. We brought that back to 2 years. We wanted to create consistency so that you don't have these units that aren't on the same time frame as all of our other units. Also, the Board of Appeals from the Township Manager, Director of Code Enforcement, it really should be to our Township Code of Appeals if there is an appeal that is needed with regards to the inspection. We think overall this creates better efficiency. We'll create a better program. It'll allow us to do it in a manner that is more consistent than what has been happening currently. And again, it's so that our rental units are examined for safety. It also is making sure that they're occupied as rental units, and any other rental units that we find, we make sure that they are registered with the township and inspected accordingly. So again, it's a bit of maintenance. Keystone helped advise us on a lot of these improvements, and it was simply looking at and taking from some other municipalities and making sure that we have what are our best management practices, and again, creating a better, efficient process in which we would inspect our rental inspections. So that is an ordinance amendment that would be needed, and this is to request that we have an advertisement of that ordinance amendment.
Thank you. Do you have any board comment? Public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance authorizing the approval of a refinancing to the 2018 Township General Obligation Bond?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. McCusker. At our most recent board departmental workshop meeting in February, we had PFM, our financial consultant, come out and make a presentation to the board about refunding our 2018 bonds and potential Township Series 2014 Township Banknote. As far as the 2018 bonds, the reason they approached us now is they have a call date of November 15th, 2023. That is 5 years from when they were issued. That allows us an opportunity to potentially refinance those bonds and obtain those savings. As far as that bond rate, it is currently fixed at 4%. The 2014 TD Bank, that's been a variable interest rate loan. It's been very favorable throughout the term to the township. The current rate last year was 1.625, but that'll reset based on the current interest rates with a cap of 5%. PFM has recommended that we go through and do the ordinance now. We can lock in an interest rate up to 90 days prior to the call date if we find and they find for us favorable interest rates. And then it just provides a little more flexibility so we don't have to do this administrative task. If we find favorable rates, we can just move forward with that piece and lock those in. As mentioned, the township staff's working with PFM, our financial consultant, our bond counsel, and Obermeyer, and Obermeyer's preparing the ordinance on behalf of the township. So if we have the ordinance advertisement at this meeting, we can consider adoption at April 12th, and then at a future date when those rates are such that we feel we would obtain a maximum amount of savings, we can then lock in those rates without having to wait to go through this two-step process.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to authorize the escrow release number 2 for River Place, 901 Washington Street in the amount of $79,169.16?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Heinrich.
Thank you, Chair McCusker. This is the townhome development on Washington Street that recently started construction. Our office has inspected the site and found the improvements to have been constructed in accordance with the plan and recommend the release of $79,169.16. And after this release, there will be $1,959,507.91 remaining.
Thank you. Any board comment? Public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve expenditures totaling $542,404.22 and payroll totaling $671,034.96 for February 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to public comment period. Any public comment today? All right, and board comment. I just have one board comment. I actually traveled outside, very far outside of the township a couple weekends ago to Andy's Diner. And I ran into Mr. Seg, and he informed me that the Seg Bus Company is celebrating 90 years of business in Whitemarsh Township. So I just wanted to publicly congratulate them, even though they're not here tonight, but maybe they'll hear it or hear about it on Facebook. I think it's something we should acknowledge for all the service they have done for our children and probably tons of parties that they've provided buses for and fundraising events. So thank you to the Seg Bus Company. Any other board comment?
No.
I'd like to announce an executive session where we discussed real estate and personnel. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'm sorry, and litigation.
And litigation?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Now it's
Now it's a motion, okay, a motion to adjourn.
Hearings are all adjourned, now we're adjourned. That's right.
All right, everybody's a clown tonight.
He moved, right?
yes.
Second.
All those in favor? Please say
Aye.
Meeting ends.
Good night,
Thank you. Good night.
Whitemarsh.